previously thought about her. Oh, I see a hand, but I don't see a name. So just go ahead.
I guess my only reflection is just that I really love. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I really love the idea that the union that they make, the kind of connection that they have, will be so strong that will be recognizable by the people at the gate and by the elders. That kind of like the last few lines of the song.
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you. Um, I see Anne
The,
Hoffman.
yeah, the thing that bothered me was why she left before morning. Uh,
Hmm.
it made it sound, um, I don't know whether she expected maybe somebody would think ill or what. But the sound was gorgeous. What are those instruments?
I'm not sure what the instruments are. I heard electric guitar. I don't remember what else, but yeah, I agree. It's beautiful. Um, Now, someone says that they like the first line. Sometimes the road chooses you. That sounds mystical and upside down. Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Bruna, for sharing the link. That link has the lyrics to it. Great. All right. So, we're gonna keep
I guess
moving along.
someone had suggested that if you could read the lyrics out loud, I think someone wanted to hear them again um, in the chat. So that might be easier to remember.
Yeah, sure. Um, Absolutely. So the lyrics are, oops. Sometimes the road chooses you and not the other way around. I don't know how, but I just knew you would lead me to sacred ground. I was living in a place, but it was time for me to leave. I'd lost all of my faith, but I was ready to believe. In the middle of the night, I went down and lay by your feet. I knew that if the time was right, you would welcome me. I crept away before the break of day. By then I knew that you would come to me. And all the people in the gate, and all the elders, they will say, we are the witnesses today to this covenant you make. Generations pass, generations come, and now our separate histories are one. So now I want to talk about the end of the story. We start off with this message of chosen family. Ruth is choosing her family. But at the end of the story, given family also plays a role. As it's written at the end of the song we listen to, generations pass and generations come, and now our separate histories are one. This stresses the importance of the ancestral line and Ruth's new part in it. And by choosing the path that was risky but felt right rather than the path that would have been easiest for her, Ruth showed a loyalty that improved Naomi's life while also bettering hers. And she really changed the course of history and became the ancestor of another well known character in the Torah, King David. So I think that's really interesting that the story ends with, and in the Bible, it ends with this specific ancestral line and mentioning all of the lineage that comes from her. And also lately, I've been thinking a lot about the power of connecting with our ancestors. We as Jews, but also for other peoples as well, we have all inherited stories, trauma, mental illness, and also many, many lessons from our ancestors. We as a people have always looked to our ancestors for strength. But now more than ever, in this pandemic, I want to encourage us to try to feel connected with those who came before us. So now I want you to think about your ancestors, and this is where I'd love for you to do a writing exercise about your ancestors. So get something to write with, or feel free to type on your computer, whatever's easiest. And I'm going to copy the prompt into the chat, but I'd like for us to all write about a blood-related ancestor that we've never met before, but have heard things about. What do you admire about them, and what would you ask them if you had the chance? So now we are going to take about 5 minutes, more or less, to write about this prompt and do some of our own reflection. And here is the question. So we'll come back at 8:17 or 9:17. All right. Start writing your final words. And I'd love for a few people to share what they wrote. You can share exactly what you wrote or give a passage, whatever you'd like to do. Um, and I see that Deborah Meltzer wrote something in the chat. So I was wondering if you wanted to share about this person and what you wrote.
Hi, sure, I will do that. So, for most of my life, I thought that all of my family in Hungary had never been, had never survived. And a survivor was discovered just a few years ago. He's actually still alive. He does not speak any English. And I am planning to finally try to speak to him directly with an interpreter or through the relative who found him. So that's why it's been very dramatic to find that there is somebody left, and he has a son and a grandchild, so, or grandchildren, I think. So I would ask him about his experiences. How did you do this? You know, what happened in the camps, and what happened when you returned to this place, you know, where neighbors were actually doing everything to cover up evidence of Jewish people ever having lived there.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'd love to hear from some more people. Would anyone want to share part or all of who they wrote about?
I can share. My name is Leah. Use she, her, hers pronouns. I thinking about so both my grandparents are Holocaust survivors, and I never met them, and sort of, and I know it's like a theme to like think about Holocaust survivors, but I've always really wanted to meet them. Specifically my grandmother. She was born in the early 1900s, and I have like my name's named after, I have some parts of my name named after her, and I've just always wanted to meet her and talk to her. And I'm looking at the prompt, but those were the kind of the things I was thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Leah. I just saw Kathy. Would you like to share? I just saw that you wrote, no, I meant to share it all.
I tried to share it all, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I sent it accidentally privately to someone.
Oh, no worries.
And basically, it was about my grandfather Mullins, who was a lawyer in Worcester in the 1940s, and I never had the honor to meet him. And because he passed away in the late 1940s, and he was a man way ahead of his time who accepted Black people as clients and as friends. And he was just a wonderful grandfather. And my father followed in my grandfather's footsteps by being a very progressive politician in the late 80s and in the 80s and 70s. And he he was just a man way ahead of his time. He put solar panels on the roof of his house, of our house when we were kids. And he was just a wonderful dad, never too busy to be a dad, and carried on that same progressive values. And I try to carry that on myself. And I just wish I had the opportunity to meet my grandfather.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for sharing. So now that we have thought a little bit about our given family and specifically our ancestors, let's now think about our chosen family. So now I want us all to write about a person who is not related to us, but makes us feel like family. And write what about them makes you feel like your kinfolk. And I'm going to write this question in the chat as well. We'll come back together at 9:26. All right, so we're gonna start to wrap up the writing for now. And I see some people have written in the chat, which is wonderful. And Eva, I see that you wrote to me privately. Did you mean to share that privately, or would you like to share with everyone? Okay, great. So, would anyone like to share with everyone? To read out or just share vocally who they were thinking about? Oh, okay. Eva has asked me to read hers out loud. Wonderful. Um, so Eva said that I have been a part of a chavura for about 40 years. Wow. They're all my true family. I am accepted as I am. They truly care about me and my family, and we stay close during this awful time. They could call me in the middle of the night and vice versa, and I would be right there. That's really nice. Thank you, Eva. And I'm going to read Kathy's as well. My friend Ed and his wife Flo became like another mom and dad to me after my dad passed. My mom introduced them to me, and we immediately connected through our shared love of flying and Italian food. Ed had his own plane and let me fly it with him. I treasure those memories. Ed and Flo are both gone now, and I miss them so much. I am now finding new chosen family among my friends here in Long Meadow since I moved here, as well as with some old friends. That's really wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you guys so much for sharing these.
Welcome.
Another point that I want to bring up is when we're thinking about this story, while Ruth was embraced, even though she came from a different background as Naomi, thinking about today in Israel, they would not be so accepting with the rabbinate, and they would have made her go through a long and difficult conversion process. So it's really nice to see in this story just how easily she was accepted. And so I think we can learn a lot from this story. And what I want you to leave with from this Torah is that it can be life-changing for us to show loyalty to people outside of our bloodline and nurture our relationships with them. So thank you all so much for sharing and for being here. And thank you, J Street, for having me. Chag Sameach, everyone, and I hope you have a good night and eat lots of dairy. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarina.